Good afternoon, everyone. So did you see your first ever mobile in that clip? I won't ask you which year it was. I will, however, admit that mine was one of those massive suitcases, a phone inside. It was in the back of my company Ford Escort for the Kent and Sussex Courier, and it was so heavy I couldn't even take it out the boot, and I had to lean in to phone through the stories back to my newsroom. Nowadays, as Nigel said, of course, our phones are in our hands all the time. They have our contacts, our email, our text, cameras, all manner of apps, everything we need to organise our lives. So we showed this film to show just how far mobile phone evolution has come, but has the evolution of product in travel been anywhere near as dramatic? Well, some would argue that holidays today are unrecognisable from 20 years ago, and others would say that travel has lagged behind other sectors. And there are some that would suggest that you can't actually keep evolving the product that much, and innovation and evolution will come perhaps in the way that we distribute or the service that we offer when we're selling holidays. Well, to discuss this and much more, and where the future will be in terms of product innovation for travel, please welcome my panel today. First of all, we have Nick Longman, Distribution and Online Director Mainstream for TUI Travel. We then have Andy Washington, the Managing Director UK and Ireland for Expedia.com. In the middle, we've got Joe Jamoska, General Manager, UK and Ireland for Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. But from January, the Managing Director of Celebrity Cruises in the UK. And then finally, we have James Beresford, the Chief Executive of Visit England. Please give him a warm welcome. Okay, so first of all, we're just going to look at some general trends that have influenced and will influence product design in travel. And Joe, just starting with you, just to look at changing customer demographics. I heard you speak recently at the Columbus Day conference about the huge growth in non-conventional size families, and in fact you cited your own family not conforming to that 2 adults, 2 kids scenario. How's that going to affect
my family's always been non-conformist. I think, Dr. Graham touched on it earlier this morning as well. The modern family is no longer, as we all know, mum and dad and 2.4 kids. And yet, as an industry, I think we continue to actually market and communicate a lot in that way. So I think that's I think some sectors of the industries are doing it better, but I think we've got a long way to go. And I think what we've got to remember is that actually, whilst we're hearing so much this morning, which has been fascinating, and I can't wait to get my free pair of Google glasses, but the reason why people go on holidays is to spend time together and to connect and to actually have that, time-rich, time poor, cash-rich, a lot of people, or even if they're not. And actually, I think we've got to be very careful as an industry that's what we're looking at. Look, what are we actually doing to make sure that on a holiday that we are making sure that we're providing that family, in whichever shape or form it comes in, the right kind of holiday for them.
Okay.
And I think the cruise industry is doing that well, but I'll probably come on to that later. I would think that, wouldn't I? But I'll come on to that.
I mean, Andy, you retail other people's products. Are you seeing sort of a change in what people are actually, in terms of interconnecting rooms or bigger rooms or single rooms,
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to get away from the subject of technology, but technology does drive a lot of that. And it's great to hear Joe's the first person today to actually talk about consumer demand. We've talked a lot about technology and we're forcing customers to do all these things, but actually, if the industry solves for what the consumer wants, then everything follows from there. Keep everything very simple. If they want to go on a cruise, solve for the cruise. If they want to use mobile, they want to use tablet and multi-device, solve for that. But unfortunately, as an industry, I'm quite embarrassed actually part of today, because I think we're left in the past, and there's a lot of people out there and a lot of travel providers that aren't really embracing what does the customer want, what are the trends in the market, and that's why we're left behind by retailers.
Okay, well, we heard trends like the ageing population as well. So, are we, adapting to that and offering what they need? Jane?
I think absolutely, from a point of view of, 50 is the new 40, 40 is, Lucy's the new 30. So I think...
Thanks for that, thank you.
Without a doubt, the image that people have of the consumer is how we're showing them and what we're saying that they want is very different to actually what they do want. And I think that's why it's really important that, from a wellness point of view, a fitness point of view, yes, connectivity is absolutely critical whilst people are on holiday as well. But I definitely think we try to box people into what we want to sell them as opposed to what they really want.
Yeah, the old tour operator model is, I've got these beds, I've got these flights, please book this, because that's what I'm trying to force to you, and then when I can't sell it, I'll discount it. Whereas the new modern age is the consumer telling you, this is what I want, this is how I want to book it, and that's what we need to solve for. And if you look at the businesses that are doing well, Booking.com, Expedia, Skyscanner, they're all digital, they're all growing, but they all give that choice. I disagree with the comment that customers don't want choice. They do, but they want you to filter for it, and technology allows them to do that.
Okay, James.
I find it quite difficult from a tourist board perspective because we can't command and control like some companies. We have the product that we have, and we have to constantly try and get it to improve. I think the most important thing that I'm hearing now is that we have to provide what the customer wants. Mm-hmm. And I still think we've got quite a long way in doing that, in recognizing that. Having said that, quite clearly the trends are such. We were talking about the new family dynamic from a domestic point of view. In England, then clearly the domestic market is changing because it's much more of an international market. We have new ethnicities in our market. So the traditional white middle-class car-owning product is probably something of yesteryear rather than tomorrow. So we have the challenges. Fascinating to listen to the connectivity and the way in which we can drive people to the market. But unless the product's right, it's never going to happen.
And just talking about internationalisation there, and you talk about different people coming into England, say, I mean, we've got the situation with the Chinese visas being simplified, so I mean, that's presumably something that all people offering product in the UK are going to have to adapt to.
They are, absolutely, and I'm thrilled with the seeming relaxation of the visa regulation in that regard, but let's not forget other markets too. Taiwan, which is visa-free, all have different market aspirations. Yeah. So, yes, of course, let's plan for the incoming Chinese market, but let's not wait. Let's plan for the here and the now.
But Nick, you're just talking about internationalisation. You've just launched your Soneo resorts, and that's about bringing all nationalities together. And presumably that presents its own challenges in providing a product that's going to suit all those different groups.
Yeah, I think about 18 months ago we decided to run our mainstream business differently, and so now we're under one team, under Johan Lundgren, collectively running the business. And there was lots of myths that you couldn't put various nationalities together, that you had to keep Brits and Germans separate, etc. And I think what we found is that those were myths, and holidaymakers in European countries are not that different to each other. And so we've started to now develop our international products. Soneo is one of them, where we can actually combine different nationalities and different markets. And it's a huge advantage. There are efficiencies around developing concepts, doing it once rather than 10 or 11 times. But also it's enabling us to get product that we know the consumer really wants. And there will be units that we couldn't afford just in the UK, or that would be too big. So I think it's better to buy, a bigger house and rent out the other half to kind of friendly relatives than not to be able to buy the house at all. And that's what we're seeing. Although, interestingly, it's not about nationalities, it's more about customer types that you put together as opposed to nationalities.
Okay, and presumably Cruise has been doing this for a while.
Yeah, no, it just takes Nick time to catch up. But the dynamics of the cruise industry from an international point of view, I mean, absolutely right. And the complexity of making sure, again, that you're delivering what the different customers want. I mean, it's like a military operation, down to the number of bananas you buy, down to the fruit and vegetable that you buy, versus as to what they want to eat, the entertainment that they want, mostly more visual as opposed to vocal, in order to ensure that your
people understand
actually the entertainment side of it. So yes, it is, but actually most people, when they go on holiday again, want to meet other nationalities.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who don't want to just be with the Brits or the Germans just with the Germans. They actually want to interact. They want to spend time with other nationalities.
So that's affecting how you're developing your product.
Yeah, and I think you're finding that in the mix now. That it's being the people who you're with is what's more important as the nationalities.
Yeah, okay.
I think the nationality people least want to be with is unfortunately the Brits. We thought they actually quite liked us, but it doesn't seem anyone really likes us.
I think I'd take exception to that. I have to say. We are extremely friendly, convivial and welcoming.
I agree with you. I think it's their interpretation.
Thank you.
All right, well,
here endeth the first lesson.
Yeah. Let's look at some of we want to look at other sort of factors that influence product design, and I mean, we mustn't ignore the global trends that are happening that do presumably have an impact, and concerns about things like health and safety or security. It's been massively in the headlines with kidnappings from resorts, killings, various accidents, Concordia, etc. So presumably that must make customers more demanding of a safer and more secure environment, and that must affect how you're having to produce the product for them. Nick?
Yeah, I think the first part of that security is also then about travelling with respected and well-known brands. I think that we're seeing as those security concerns heighten, people do want to travel with established brands. But you absolutely have to be able to give your customers the full confidence when they go on holiday that they're going to be in a safe environment. And in particular, we've been working very closely with ABTA around security in resorts, around checks on staff who are working in hotels, etc., because it is a concern, and I think we do need to make sure we put the right investment in that.
Again, I think that's correct to the tour operator beach market, the 2+2s, because of legislation and because that's the expectations, and you wouldn't take your children and risk their health and safety. But then why is the likes of Airbnb being so successful when the younger generation, the Generation Y, or the millennials, whatever you want to call them, they're a little bit more risk-taking. But they'll listen to people, they'll listen to their reviews, and they'll take those chances because they've read up on it, but in terms of what other people like them are saying. But that's going to change product development over time by different generations and customer groups, as Nick was saying a minute ago.
Yeah. Joe, did you want to comment on the safety aspects? I know Clea have been doing an awful lot of work to make sure that people...
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly from the tragedy, the Concordia tragedy is something that was absolutely unforeseen in the industry, and I think, Clea has come together, which is the cruise line, association, in a far stronger way following that, for one industry, one invoice, and a lot of steps have been taken from a safety point of view to make sure that all cruise lines are actually behaving in the way that they need from a safety and security point of view.
All right, well, let's pick up on Malcolm Preston's presentation this morning about sustainability, both in terms of, whether customers are now having more of a conscience, whether they want to give something back and with their holiday, and also just generally companies being forced to be more responsible to the environments and to the communities that they're working in. Does that affect product design? Is that how it...
Yeah, I mean, again, from an international perspective, but primarily from a domestic perspective, people are thinking very seriously about the choices behind that which they will decide to go on holiday. Now, I maintain, and you may have a different view to this, but I maintain that actually people are not saying, I'm going there because it's a green and a sustainable destination. They're actually going to that destination because that destination respects the environment, or at least has some form of visitor payback or something. That's not the main reason for going, but increasingly businesses, destinations, we're seeing it in rural Cumbria, in some of the national parks back in England, where visitor payback schemes are felt to be a good thing. They're not the primary driver there.
Okay, so we're not going to see product contracting as people are perhaps not allowed to take cruise ships into certain places, or, because he was suggesting that it could get, really strict.
I think there'll be, again, legislation or consciousness that people will do things like that. But you look back 5 years ago, lastminute.com was doing its carbon offsetting. The customers didn't buy it. They didn't take it because, unfortunately, when it comes to the mass market and the mass consumer, price is king. And you can develop everything you want to, but if you haven't got a competitive price, particularly now it's 40% of all customers online search for a meta channel. You saw there about TripAdvisor. They've moved to a meta price comparison model now. If you haven't got the best price, then you're not going to win that transaction anyway. You go onto a meta comparison site, sustainability doesn't come into it at all.
Okay, fair enough. All right, we're just talking about legislation. You said that there, and I know you wanted to comment on the changes to the Package Travel Directive, because you feel very strongly that might affect the way that product evolves in the travel industry.
Yeah, we've got 12 minutes left, so I won't rant on about
Yeah, no, don't
Package
rant,
Travel
just a
Directive.
quick comment.
But in general, it will just distort data, and it will distort how they'll be risk averse as travel agents to sell anything outside of a package. So we'll talk about package volumes are increasing, but in general, I heard it this morning that packages are the new thing, it's back in vogue. Well, it is, but dynamic packaging is increasing far, far quicker. But our industry data doesn't include the likes of Booking.com or Expedia. Okay. And on that basis, dynamic packaging, actually we should just get away from the terms of package or dynamic packaging.
Yeah,
it's holidays, and that's growing.
Okay, fair enough. Let's just talk about the economy, just picking up on Ian Dale's presentation this morning. Now, he said that we were in a recovery, and then we had a show of hands, and most people were saying it was a better year. So, if a struggling economy pushed us more towards all-inclusive products, the fact that we're now perhaps coming out of that and seeing a brighter economy, does that mean that people are going to want more flexibility, more personalisation, more privacy? Are we going to move away? You did your first choice holiday villages all inclusive, but are we going to move away from that?
No, I don't think so. I think there is no doubt that when times got tough, people wanted the certainty and the value that all-inclusive gave. They wanted to go away and know that they had spent the majority of their holiday spend. But all-inclusive had been on the increase for many years before the economy started to take a downturn. So I wouldn't necessarily anticipate to see huge growth continuing, but certainly wouldn't expect to see that it goes backwards. I don't think it's purely economy related.
Okay, fair enough.
I think, just because we may be coming out of recession doesn't mean that people aren't going to be looking for best value and for deals. And, where the Generation Y or the millennials or whatever you like to call them, they're much more savvy about looking for added value. And that's a habit that's not going to go. People are going to be looking for added value, free bottled wine, an extra meal, a private tour, or this, that, and the other. And that is here to stay.
Okay, fair enough. Well, we've talked a bit about technology, but it's obviously the key driver, I guess, in product evolution. So let's talk a bit more about that. And Mark, right at the start this morning, talked about mass customization and was very clear saying that he felt that the travel industry hadn't really grasped that concept. So really just to ask all of you whether you agree with Mark and what you think that the travel industry needs to do and what it can do with the new technology coming online. Do you want to start, Nick?
Okay, yeah, I think it's similar to the point that was raised earlier, that it is around understanding your customer needs and then producing your product in line with what that customer wants. I think for us, developing a TUI community who can help us to co-create products is going to be very important. But now we're using, I was pleased to see there was a reference to the TUI digital app, but we're using that to communicate with the customer. And really, I think what I see a changing role going forward. I see that customers will be contacting their rep and resort to personalise their holiday experience when they get there as much as possible. And I can see that the rep will spend probably 50% of their time dealing with customers before they travel and the other 50% when customers when they're actually on there. So that when they've got there, the holiday experience is as personal as they want it to be.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah, and I think so much is about inspiration. Again, we're going on a holiday, look at Dubrovnik. I've never been here before, and I'm just blown away by it. And it's so much about inspiration, and I think we're so obsessed about getting people straight into, bang, finding the holiday that's left as opposed to the holiday that's right. And I think what's really important is inspiring people and showing them the rich content and showing them the destination of where they're going to. And actually, again, I think as an industry, cruising does that very, very well overall. You unpack once and you wake up every morning in a different place. And what we're spending a lot more time doing is inspiring the people when they're actually coming to our site. Where they end up booking is up to them. It's a channel of choice, but we want them to be inspired, which is why we're hitting on their passion points. We're using a lot of influencers, such as Ben Fogle, who really talks about the destination rich. And that's what it's all about. We get obsessed by product price, and we're not doing enough to inspire why people go on holiday.
Joe, I think you're right, but I think that's the second phase, and I think that's where the UK industry, travel industry, is lagging behind. Is you've got to get the basics right first. If you don't get your search results, if you don't get your landing pages and your sideways traffic right, then you're never going to be able to have those inspirational things that then do the conversion. That's why our conversion in the travel industry is 10 times what you're seeing in the tour operators, because the likes of Expedia will invest huge amounts of money and we have 1 petabyte of data every day. That's a big number. I don't know the exact number of what it means. But if we spend $500 million every year in technology and do 400 A/B tests every month, then that gives us the ability and the data to keep evolving and make sure we've got the basics right. Then you can go and do all the fancy stuff and the inspirational stuff after that.
Okay, so you're talking very much about attracting people to buy the holiday, but coming back to the product that people are actually going to get when they get on holiday. Customer demand again, going back to that, but I mean, nobody now wants to travel and not stay connected. And that's from children up to adults. I mean, there's some, Accor hotels recently put out research saying there was this new term blurring, of people blurring their private and professional lives, meaning that 86% of Brits now take a work mobile on holiday and 40% take their laptop. And in the same week, Club Med research of 2,000 parents found that 1 in 4 had abandoned a simple beach holiday because their kids just were not interested in building sandcastles and they wanted to be active and using technology the whole time. So yes, we'll talk about how people book the holiday, but we've also got to talk about the product when they're there, and are you absolutely delivering that connectivity in your product?
It was fascinating, wasn't it? That was Nigel earlier on saying when you walk in your room you've got to have so many plug points and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I mean, just I think from a pure connectivity point of view and being in touch, then of course you've got to have that. But it's a fine balance, isn't it? I mean, we've already said today that you actually, to a certain extent, holidays are about getting away from everything. It's a very fine balance, and I think you need, if it is entirely possible, you have to provide authenticity with connectivity. And I'm not sure, I went to the Queen's Gallery in London recently and to see a new costume exhibition. Fascinating, but everybody had an iPad, and they were looking at the interpretation of the piece on their iPad rather than looking at the piece. And I found that clinically depressing. And you know, I do think...
Are you over it now?
I'm over it. I'm over it. I'm in a much more friendly place.
Oh, good.
No, I'm over it now. And but I do think it is about authenticity.
Yes.
You know, why do people come here? Yes, they want some sun, but they want the beautiful scenery, the food, to see the people. It is authenticity. And blurring, yes, of course, we've seen an increase, certainly domestically, in a lot more short breaks.
Okay.
You know, people aren't going to take the longer break because they just don't want to be away from the office. So I think it's a fine line, but please, let's keep our authenticity.
Okay.
That's a nice aspiration, but unfortunately Wi-Fi is now a given. You have to have Wi-Fi. And product evolution will be, if a hotel has free Wi-Fi,
oh yeah,
then you're going to book that over one that doesn't. And I'm sure the majority of us in here are very frustrated by the speed or the connectivity of the Wi-Fi here at the moment. But there's a great example. There's lots of surveys, but we're all living and breathing that in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, actually, I don't want to have a go at the hotel, but we talk about product innovation, and arrived yesterday, and I think we queued for about an hour. People were queuing to check in an awful long time, and surely there should be a product innovation. We do all these other amazing things. Why can't we just walk in and with an app and check in and get into our room? Is that going to happen? Is that what you're working
There's
towards?
technology in the States, and it will come into hotels where you can use an iPhone now to unlock your front door. So you don't need a key. But the beauty of it is you can also send the code to friends that you want to let into your house if you're not there. You can also then give it to your...
And have a massive party.
Oh no, this is the best one. You can then give it to your kids, and you can track what time they come in the morning. And that's where technology can be evolved into the travel industry. You shouldn't have had to have queue yesterday. In the future, you just walk straight up to your room, bang, in.
And just on that, I mean, just, you know, for a bit of a plug, we check in and check out every week 6,200 people in 45 minutes in Miami, and that's technology that's enabling us to do that, and good customer service.
So they could learn from the cruise industry. Is what
Can I say something positive about the hotel in defence?
Oh
of the
yeah,
hotel?
no, the hotel is wonderful.
I checked in today, and in my fabulous room, it said, "Welcome to the tourism minister from Croatia." I've got a really.
So you've
nice
got an
room,
innovation.
actually.
Yeah, exactly.
I did own up, but they said, that doesn't matter.
Someone asked if you're having to share with him.
Well,
Maybe his smartphone isn't the last thing he's turning off at night. Turning on.
All right, back to the discussion. We've probably now only got 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
I was going to talk about jacuzzis, but
yeah, no, don't. You're blushing. Nick, I know you wanted to come in there.
No, I think Wi-Fi is really important, and I do appreciate that people want different things on holiday. Some people want to switch off. But I think from our perspective, it's really important to give customers that choice. We know in particular the kids want to be connected. So all of our differentiated hotels we're going through with our hoteliers at the moment to ensure they all have Wi-Fi and that it's all free. And with the new technology, we had a trial in Cyprus this year where all our reps were given iPads. They could communicate with all the customers much more easily. You have to be connected for that to work, for that level of customer service to work. You can't not have signal. So it is really important. And it was very interesting. On the back of using that technology, we saw that our reps were happier, their engagement scores went up, and the CSQs that we had at the end about would you recommend us to another person or would you book again were 40% up. So it's clear that customers want that connectivity. They want the use of that technology to enable a smoother holiday.
Okay. Just going back to the CRM piece, I was going to ask you, Andy, I mean, how far can it actually really change the product design? Because, you know, currently you book a hotel and you book a flight, whatever, but really we're talking, and you were talking here about authenticity and the experience. You know, how far away are we from actually being able to say, well, this is the experience I want, because you know all about me, you know what I like, because we've got all this big data on me, and that will be how you build the holiday around the experience and the other things come in. Because at the moment, the experiences are add-ons after you've bought the travel.
Yeah, I think you can go massively deep into it. Google is the prime example of the best algorithm in the world and knowing so much data about you and what you want and what you're searching for. And travel can learn from that. And we're at very basic steps at the moment, but if you come to the Expedia site, we can do the typical Amazons. People like you are searching for this because we know your data. In the future, you'll be able to serve up, well, you've searched for this, here's something equivalent. We'll know that you go to New York every November each year Christmas shopping. If you completely redo that all the time, every November you come to the site, we'll serve that up to you. Or even things such as When you're going away, within 7 days of departure, if you use the Expedia app, it will default to your itinerary rather than to the search element of the app, because it knows you're going away and it knows that's the information you want. So it can go very, very deep.
Okay, and Nick, we were talking earlier about, you know, the way you can filter things down and make a funnel so you've got the less choice, but exactly what you want.
Yeah, I think from a search perspective, you obviously start with quite a broad search, and then you can use filters so that essentially the filter is doing, it's asking the question back to the consumer to narrow it down. But I think also personalising your on holiday experience before you go is really important. Two, we're looking to introduce a holiday planner so that when you're actually on holiday before you go, you can plan which restaurants you want to go to, you can book people into activities. People like Centre Parks have been doing it very well for a while, and you know, we're now introducing that, so yeah, maybe we're behind again like Joe on the cruise, but you know, we're introducing that so people can pre-populate what they're doing when they're on holiday. Some won't want to do that. They'll hate the idea of planning every minute of their holiday, but others want to do it, particularly where they've got kids, and it helps to build that excitement about what you're going to do when you get there.
That inspiration again. James?
This might not be about CRM directly, but it is about the power of connectivity and providing feedback and so on and so forth. Just as an interesting observation, I was speaking to the Director General of the Las Vegas Convention Bureau the other day, and they have tens of thousands of rooms to fill every night. And I said, you know, as a quasi-tourist board, how are you concerned about customer care? He said, with social media, absolutely not. You know, we don't have to worry about that, because people complain like that, and it's picked up. And if people are responsive to that,
and they deal with it quickly,
then they'll deal with it, and it's great customer satisfaction.
Okay, and presumably you're all using social media, and does the same thing happen?
Yeah, and I think, as we know, the cruise industry is prolific. I mean, Cruise Critic, I think it's one of the most prolific sites out there. So it's absolutely that. You know, the guest-generated feedback is significant to the changes that we make before they go on the site, when they're with us, when they come back.
Okay.
Significant.
All right, and we haven't got much more time, but just to talk about sort of competition and profitability, because presumably, you know, you can drive margin through product innovation. You just got to look at Apple. They keep bringing out these fantastic, you know, devices that are absolutely beautiful design, and people want to buy them, and they'll pay a premium for it. So if you've got something unique that nobody else has got, and you keep pushing to get that better thing and the thing that, you know, no one else can touch for a while, presumably that drives product evolution because you can make more money out of it. I mean, the Dreamliner or the Sensatori resorts, that would presumably be an example of that.
Yeah, I think when we look at our differentiated product, it sells earlier than generic product, it has a higher repeat business, and it makes more margin. So all of the things that you would want from a product it has. What it does do is increase your risk, which is why it's then important to have controlled distribution so that you know you can sell the product as well.
So really, because you've got the economies of scale to do that, and you're a big company, you can invest in that. But perhaps smaller ones, are you saying smaller ones can't do that?
I think that is a point. And looking at our digital assistant again, I don't think the UK business could have afforded to produce a digital assistant if it did it by itself. The investment in the digital assistant is now going out across all of our markets. It's already in Germany and will be rolled out across all other markets by the end of the year. The UK business, even as a big business, couldn't have afforded such a sophisticated product by itself. So it is an advantage of scale.
Yeah. Okay, we're running out of time, so let's just go along and ask you, I guess, what you believe is going to be the biggest product innovation in your sector. And I want to start with you, Joe, because you've got 13 more ships coming in between 2014 and 2015, which is going to give it 8.7% more capacity, which is a lot. Now, how do you
personally, but yes,
not you, but you know, speaking with your chair of Clear, perhaps not just from your own brand, but I mean, innovation in cruise, is it going to be more gimmicky things like rock climbing walls and zip wires, or is that an end to that now? Because actually people are getting older, and I don't know how many 80-year-olds actually go up your funnel. That sounds rude. That didn't come out right. But
I beg your pardon, darling. Leave my funnel alone.
Darling. Sorry about that. But you know what I mean.
From a serious point of view, we don't build large ships for fun. We build large ships because of what we're able to put on board, the facilities we're able to put on board the ship. They get our highest guest satisfaction, and they also are our most profitable ships.
Okay.
And that's why we do that. But so I don't see them as gimmicks. It doesn't mean that everybody uses them, but again, we get a lot of three-generational travel, more and more so. Modern family, different kind of families, and people get as much fun observing as they do taking part. So what will be next? Who knows? I mean, nobody ever said I want an ice rink. Nobody ever said that I want a rock climbing wall. So we have a team of people who are thinking about the next generation of what.
And do you think it will
do.
still be on board product, or do you think it will be innovation in perhaps, you know, the land, the shore excursion experience? Is that where cruise could innovate in that way?
And we are doing both.
Okay.
Absolutely both.
All right. So what's
destination is the primary reason why people take a cruise.
Okay. James, what do you think in the domestic sector?
Possibly not so much from an innovation point of view, both domestically and internationally. London is such a powerhouse in tourism in Great Britain, and that's understandable. But from an English point of view, there's some fantastic product. There's some challenging product, but there's some fantastic product outside London. 55% of international visitors do not put one foot outside London. And so in terms of innovation, we need to think of innovative ways of encouraging people out of London.
Yeah.
And I think just one last point of innovation, it's foreign currency for Crawley. That'll do it, won't it?
They'll come running. Andy, what do you think?
I think a point that Joe just said there, so I'm not going to predict the future, but I just encourage everyone in the UK industry to really get back to the basics, understand the data, understand consumer demand, and once our industry gets that base level, then it will keep up with the likes of Expedia, Booking and Skyscanner. Without that, those businesses that aren't touching those points right now are going to spend the next 2 years catching up. By that point, we'll be another 5 years ahead.
Okay, fair enough. And Nick?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be anything in terms of what new products as such. I think it's going to be about that connectivity with the customer, really understanding their needs and giving them a highly personalised experience before they go on holiday and when they're on holiday as well. I think that's what's going to be innovation. Okay, so that's back to the intro, in fact. So maybe not the product, but the way that we distribute it and the way that we talk to them and the way we service our clients will be the big change. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, please thank our panel, Nick, Andy, Joe and James. Thank you.